sustainable growth, financial, economical and technological strategies of India, where we will explore three strategies to foster long-term development across various sectors. Together, we will discuss how India can leverage financial, economic, and technological innovations to achieve sustainable growth for the future. This is Pradnya Rao, delighted to welcome you all to the sixth edition of Orange City Literature Festival, organized by SGR Knowledge Foundation, powered by Raisoni Education. Today we have with us Mr. Tamal Bandyopadhyay. He is an award-winning author and columnist with nearly 3 decades of experience in Indian banking sector. He is the consulting editor for Business Standard and senior advisor to Jan Small Finance Bank Limited, and has contributed to the founding of Mint and advised Bandhan Bank. His best-selling books include Pandemonium, The Great Indian Banking Tragedy, have won multiple awards, and he is recognized as one of India's most influential financiers. Dr. Amit Kapoor is an honorable chairman of the Institute of Competitiveness, India, and an affiliate to the Harvard Business School, where he teaches courses on strategy, competitiveness, and business model. He has authored several bestsellers, including Riding the Tiger, The Age of the Awakening, and has worked with Niti Aayog and Economic Advisor Council to the Prime Minister on various policy indices. A renowned columnist, he has published over 1,000 opinion pieces across major publications like Economic Times and Mint. Mr. Pradip Shah is a veteran journalist, author of his debut book, The Learning Trap: How Byju's Took Indian EdTech for a Ride, a bestseller that explores the rise and fall of Byju's in India's EdTech landscape. Dr. Ranjan Welukar, 36 years of experience in India's higher education system as a teacher. Administrator and policy advisor, he has held leadership roles at prestigious institutions like Mumbai University and J.H. Raisoni University, while contributing to various national committees, including the UGC and NAC. Dr. Welukar is recognized for his work in both academic and non-academic roles, including serving as a senior program officer at the Commonwealth Secretariat and Deputy Secretary to the Governor of Maharashtra. This session will be moderated by Mr. Dipankar Mukherjee. He is a management graduate from IIT Madras and founder of Redomania Publishing, known for its eclectic of books. He has also been instrumental in curating literature festivals and organizing writing workshops. He takes keen interest in working with authors to create books that readers love. This session will last for 40 minutes. We kindly request everyone to adhere to the time frame so that we ensure a proper start of the next session. Thank you so much.
Between 2014, the actually Reserve Bank of India took note of it, and between 2016 and 18 there was a clean-up drive. We all thought that COVID would end this, but no, nothing happened. We are fine and federal. I think the pink of health in the financial system at this point of time, particularly the banking system. There is certain issues in the NBFC segment, on the personal loan, etc. that does happen. I'm sure it will be taken care of that. We have a corporate India which is pretty good. By pretty good, what I'm saying is a deleveraged corporate India, which we saw the corporate India last decade. It was there were a lot of things were happening. They were dependent on the banking system. They were over leveraged. There was a debt burden, and then multiple things have happened. Banks got through a cleanup. IBC came into the picture. And that's the insolvency code in record time. So that helped both the banking system to clean up and the corporate segment to clean up. So these are for any economy, these are the two legs to stand on. You have a solid financial system and you have a solid corporate India. Of course, the stock market, what is happening, that's a separate story, because the pricing in the stock market is going higher than which the earnings are not being able to catch up. So that is it. So overall, I think possibilities. I mean, this India is a story which is full of possibilities, and if you look elsewhere, you will find there are certain issues which is not so good. I'm not getting into that, but as far as India concerned, I don't want to get into all the language like it's a oasis and it is not like that, but it's a good story to bank on and nothing to feel disappointed. I think we are on the right track. Thank you.
That's a very good beginning and a positive beginning. Amit, I'll bring the question to you now on this aspect. Tamal sir said that we are in a very good spot and future looks bright. This cannot happen overnight, right? Over the last 30 years since Narasimha Rao brought in liberation, opened the economy rather, there must have been milestone moments in the economy which created a position of strength where we are today. What do you think are the key milestones in the last 30 years of our journey?
So this is a great question, and I totally agree with Tamal, and that is that India is at a fairly interesting spot. Point of agreement and disagreement there, that yes, India will continue to grow at about 7% or 8%, it's anybody's guess. But the bigger point here is that we will end up becoming the third largest economy, but the challenge is going to be the per capita income. So how do we really look at that equitable distribution that we need to really be very concerned about? Because India has a huge levels of disparity which are seemingly accentuating over a period of time. But coming back to your question, in terms of what are those punctuation points, I think if you talk about the last 30 years, a lot of things have happened, I'll come to that, but the most important time that India actually had was the first Prime Minister. And the path that India has actually taken was an important point at that point. Somehow for us, we've started disregarding Pandit Nehru in our country, but we need to really be careful in saying that he was wrong. He was absolutely right given the context in which he has taken those decisions. We ended up with the World War. We actually had the Great Depression. Capitalistic system had actually taken over India. It was a company that ruled India for 200 years. So he actually had to move towards what you would call as a socialistic compact. And that is what India chose for. So let's not discard his thinking. And it was a very important thinking. Created those great institutions. Created institutions like the IITs and the AIMS and whatever. You add numbers to it, it's a separate number. There was a huge deep level thought that had actually happened. But coming to 1991, there was a precursor to 1991, and that was 1984, and that was Rajiv Gandhi. Rajiv Gandhi ended up becoming, or I think, one of the most important prime ministers because he started what you would call as the digital era for this country. That is when the telephone started, or the revolution started happening. 1991, yes, the economy opened up. There was this whole liberalization that did happen. And if you ask me, if I have to rate the prime ministers in the country, then I think Narasimha Rao was possibly one of the finest, given the coalition government that he was running. So there is also this debate that happens within our country that what Amada was saying, that stability, but the most significant governments in this country have been governments which were coalition governments, not the governments which were actually stable governments as you were actually thinking about. So the most significant government was the PV Narasimha Rao government, then came the Vajpayee government, again a coalition at that point in time, but they actually did a lot of things on investing in infrastructure. We had the golden quadrilateral that you were talking about, and it was an idea conceived by. 2004 became an important point because that is when the Manmohan Singh government stabilized the investments in infrastructure. 2008, I think Manmohan Singh government again played a very important role, and that was about the world was going through a financial crisis or a mess, how they looked at it. And then of course 2014, I think it was an important point in time because after a very long period of about coalition governments, we had a very, very stable, strong government in the middle of our country. So possibly very, very a replica of the Indira Gandhi movement. Because when you talk about Indira Gandhi per se, like Indira Gandhi came with that kind of popularity, Rajiv Gandhi also, but then there is this prime minister who ended up becoming very, very popular. Did some amazing things. Of course, anybody as a person will make mistakes as well, but at the end of the day, what he has done is in terms of he's clicked or checked all the right boxes in terms of the decisions that had to be taken in terms of liberalizing the the business further, making things easier, how India can actually be known better across the board or abroad, and so on and so forth. So he has created that fundamental thing. But what I think is lacking, and I should also talk about the lacking thing, I think we need to move towards being a little more tolerant as a society. What we have seen in the last 10, 15, 20 years is that we are becoming a little intolerant to ideas, to discussions, or whatever. We need to become a far more tolerant to what India can actually be. So I'm more Gandhian in thinking, and I think, and again I would like to say it here as well in a public forum in front of young kids, please learn to respect Gandhi. Gandhi was the most important leader this country has seen. Everybody else is not even a shadow on what Mahatma Gandhi was able to do for this country. If there are three great individuals in the world that you have talked about in the last 500 years, it has to be Abraham Lincoln, Mahatma Gandhi, and Martin Luther King. That is where it will be.
Wonderful. Bringing in Pradip with the conversation, seeing the growth that Tamal spoke about and the growth that has been built on foundations over the last 30 years, there's a huge role of emerging industries that's come up, and more so to say the startups that have added a lot of value, unicorns that have been created, investor and founder wealth created. EdTech has been a particularly interesting space which during COVID had a steep rise, and post-COVID and probably equally steep fall. What's your opinion on the industry and its most important player, Byju's?
Well, thank you. Education technology, as we know, had a pretty interesting time in the last 4 years, so to say. Everything changed with the pandemic. Obviously, there were companies that were providing edtech services. There was Byju's, Academies, and the likes. But two things happened, and nobody had anticipated either of the things. First was the pandemic, obviously. The entire world went into a lockdown, and overnight, everything changed. Public perception of education technology changed. It was like till 21st of March 2020, though people who would not have any faith in education technology or online learning would learn that on 22nd of March or 23rd of March, it will be the only way to learn. There was no other option. Technology, online learning was the only model through which you can continue your learning. And at that point in time, nobody knew how long this phase will last, right? So online education was here to stay at that point in time. All these companies, not just in India but across the world, you look at Czech, you look at 2U in the US, you look at the companies in China, they had a tremendous rise, right? And I will not give you valuation metrics because those don't mean anything here. They grew multi-fold. The exponential growth was recorded in all of these companies, and all of these companies actually rose on two theses, right? The first was that the consumer behavior has been fundamentally changed, and this change will be irrevocable. That was number one. And number two, that the money that was coming in was going to stay. This was the thesis on which the entire edtech sector grew. But then in 2022, the pandemic was declared over and things opened up. And overnight, the same students who had converted to online went to offline institutions, schools, colleges, coaching centers. And suddenly you realize that the child who was sitting at home had like good 16 hours of doing anything, was only left with 3 hours. So there was only that much time that they could dedicate to whatever. And suddenly there was no time for online businesses. There was no traction, there was no growth. At the same point in time, what you also have to understand is the money that was coming in. Technology stocks were getting a beating in the US. The Federal Reserve had tightened their monetary policy, which actually impacted the money that was coming in the the education system. EdTech economy over here. And you have to also remember that the entire EdTech business was built on investment that were coming from the West. None of these companies are still profitable. None of the EdTech companies are still profitable. The only profitable company was Physics Wala, which has gone into losses. So, I mean, all of us, like including journalists like me, we had written off the offline business. We had written epithets about the offline business when the pandemic was here, and we were talking about how everything will change in the coming years. And nobody, including the entrepreneurs, including the investors, including us writers, none of us anticipated that it will completely change once the pandemic was over, which is what we are seeing right now. We had a bull run, and now there's a vacuum. So the landscape has changed quite a bit, quite fast.
Very interesting. Picking up on education, Rajan sir, coming to you, India does need a significant amount of skilling, reskilling, upskilling, all of it. Do you believe we run a risk in that particular aspect for our future?
Thank you. See, 100% of the children needs skills. But we need to understand the meaning of skills. Skilling is doing something repeatedly. Okay? Scientists also need skills, but they also need something more than that. Okay? Imagine in India, if we would have given only skill education to all the scientists who has invested their knowledge and innovation in creating ISRO. If everybody would have been given the skills education, we would not have built ISRO. And therefore we need to understand that everybody doesn't need a carpenter's job in this country. Yes, some people need it. And therefore we should think very, very differently. Some people will be needing repetitive skills. But what we have understood in our country, in general, I am not talking about the exception, they think that we need to give skilling education which is repetitive in nature to everyone. No, not to everyone. Those who really cannot go beyond for them, and those who are happy with just getting a job. I am not talking about employment. Employment and job are different. Those who are going to want jobs, then they can be sent there. But again, this is on periphery we are thinking. We all. Our model has to be very different. Our model should be based on survival. We need to think, go deep dive and think whether we are going to survive or not. We need to skill each and every individual how to survive. Now, if we want to understand that, then we need to give them a different kind of education, how this planet will be alive and how planet will be alive with all those resources will be needed to the generations after generations which are going to come. And therefore, I was just writing in the morning and then we need to have say hi model. Say hi model is SEHI. S is sustainability. Are we really practicing sustainability or talking sustainability? I am sure we are talking sustainability and not practicing sustainability to the extent to which we should. E is ethical. Are we really ethical? I'll give you an example of this recent elections only. I work in Mantralaya and how the budgets are made. In the recent elections, we have given 1,500 rupees to every individual women, to which we call Ladki Bahi. Isn't it? Good, some of them need it. But I made a calculation. 2.5 crores, 25 million women has been given this. So 12 months, 1,80,000, you multiply, you will get the number. You divide that number by 30 lakh students studying in higher education in Maharashtra. It comes to 1,20,000 rupees per year. You know, in higher education, if you invest this money and if you give an education of sustainable planet, you can think how our planet will be. Just think. But we don't think in that direction. We don't question. We don't question. Why? Because we are not following this say I model. Sustainability, ethical, holistic development of children and inclusive. I am in higher education, I have spent more than 42 years. If you ask me, is our education inclusive? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And in the skilling also, skill everybody needs. Everybody needs. But with that, you also need the basic sciences. If you don't know that, we will never become a developed country. We'll never become a developed country. If we want to become a developed country, then we should go beyond. Skills, of course, you need it. Everybody needs it. But beyond that, you should go and do something. So you should go down, deep down, and then understand what is happening. Then only we will really able to solve some issues.
Very interesting point. Tamal, question to you. I'm going to bring in three perspectives from three different directions. Point number one, you mentioned in your previous narrative that the price earning ratios, right? Our earnings are not matching up to our price. That's number one. Number two, what Rajan sir mentioned, sustainability. Keeping these 2 points in mind, do you really believe that the growth that you're going through is going to be long-term sustainable growth? And if yes, how? And if no, what happens to the vision of our current government of making India a leading power, leading country by 2050?
I wish I knew the answer. But, as I mentioned that there are issues. Price earning, the earnings are not in tandem with the pricing. That's a completely separate story that has nothing to do with economy at all. That's about stock market and the investors. We are talking about financialization. Like people, if you look at, I don't want to burden, and the school kids are there, but and all this drilling the numbers. But what's happening in the past few years, the number of people in this investing in stock market have grown phenomenally, right? That so-called demat accounts number, etc. So you see, people are, instead of keeping money in the FDs, bank FDs, they are putting money in mutual fund or directly stock market, etc. So this is, to use a cliche, something like irrational exuberance. What happened between say 2000, post-COVID till recently, till 2 months back. There was no looking back that somebody said that it's not equity investment, it is like keeping money in FD. The money was growing. It cannot happen, it should not happen, it doesn't happen. So what we are seeing is correction, and corrections for two different reasons. One is that some of the other geographies which were completely written off, now they are attracting money. So the water flows downward and money goes upward. So foreign money, we can keep on talking about is a retail investor that becomes the backbone of the stock market. That's not the case. Yes, retail investors have grown multifold, but at the end of the day, if the FII, if the foreign money pulls out, then we have to see our LIC and other mutual funds and you and me cannot stop that fall. That's what has happened now. It's a combination of two. Certain other markets have become more attractive, and our corporate India has not been able to generate that kind of earnings that can justify the money. As we speak, particularly in the lower, I mean the smaller companies, the so-called mid cap and small caps, there's a huge gap between the earnings and the pricing. In the large caps, the gap is getting widened, gap is getting narrowed now. So but that is a separate story that has nothing to do with what's happening in the economy. In some sense, this is all about stock market investment. I don't want to deviate, but the other side of it is this, and other side of it is this: people are losing tons of money. The same norm said that how in the FNO segment, I think 92% people actually have lost money between 2002 and 2022 and 2024. They were, yes, FNO, the people are drawing money. Reserve Bank of India governor said that they had done a study, but the sample size is not that big, so he does not want to disclose the study. But he said that we have got a feel of it. Essentially, what people are not directly saying, but they're hinting at, people are drawing money and drawing money from the banking system, taking loans from banks and putting it in market, not for any productive purpose. Absolutely. So that should not go at all. That's the thing. So that is one part of it. Other part of, so what's happening in the stock market, that doesn't necessarily reflect always the economy. It's driven by bulls and it's irrational exuberance at times. What is happening? What happened till now? Second part of this is it sustainable? Can we go there and all? See, again, I don't see much of story there that we will become third trillion economy, the third largest economy, and X trillion, Y trillion. He's telling that little girl there, one day you will become 30-year-old, you will teach somewhere. This girl is now 16, she will become 30 one day, and she will probably have her family, she will be a mother, and one day she will become grandma. What's the big deal about it? So I don't know why we make such a big. It's logical only, I mean, you cannot remain wherever you are. So when we will become third largest economy, how many trillion? Let's not get into that. But the point I am just repeating, the building blocks are there. I mean, Amit spoke about what happened pre and the Nehru days and the 1991, etc. All these things that the foundations were there at point of time. And I am talking about also in the recent past, some of the things that happened is this, like again I am repeating the way we clean the banking system, which is something called asset quality review. Raghuram Rajan was the RBI governor, he did that, which has never happened globally anywhere. Essentially what we told the banks that look, we don't trust you, our guys will go, will get into your drawing room and your bedroom and your kitchen and find out how much kacha is there. And we'll clean that up. So that happened, that cleaned up the banking system. In record time, I think Pradip Mukherjee was the president at that time, 2015, August something, in record time, IBC, insolvency court, came in the picture. Again, India did not have that. No, we have that BIFR and other things and all which were dragging things, etc. But the insolvency court is a great thing that will happen. Demonetization was something which should not have been done. It does not have any it's forgettable, but GST has come. GST has come, that are also it's a big leap forward for the formalization of economy. You will find that, and that's actually helping the MSMEs and SMEs to get bank loans because they are not formalized. Another thing happened is this, what is called the PMJDY, Prime Minister, that's that particular thing, which is the biggest financial inclusion drive globally. As we speak, if I am not mistaken, up to November, 55 crore Indians have got bank deposits. The money kept in the bank deposits not much, is average about 4,000 rupees, it's 2 lakh crore plus. But the fact is this, I am not that negative person that nothing is happening. No, things are happening. More things need to be done to get out of this K-shaped economy, to actually make sure that the have-nots and the
Can we request the audience to please settle down? Can we close the doors, please? My request, please close the door. Thank you so much.
I just 1 minute I'll close it or not. I'm just saying that things are happening. There are building blocks, but more needs to be done, certainly. Like for instance, just giving dole does not make any sense. So one scheme now not recently, I think it's about a year now, that Lakpati Didis. It's essentially, you give them money, but you handhold them and you make them entrepreneurs. So that is one such thing where actually you going beyond money, giving money and dole, helping them, handholding them in their journey of entrepreneurship. So I think that's only one sample, one example I can think of. So there are many more things need to be done to have a equitable growth where you, me, all of us can participate. That is some time away. That has not yet happened. That's the thing we need to see. How do we follow that? Otherwise, I think we are on the right track. Building blocks are there. And it's a question of, but as I am repeating, that should I get excited and just say that tomorrow I will become third trillion economy, third largest economy, day after tomorrow second largest, etc. Oh, just say one day I will become 70 and 75 and one day I will die. So it's this kind of prediction does not make any sense. Thank you.
Well said, Tamal. Taking Tamal's point on, more to be done. Amit, question to you. What is your view on that more that needs to be done?
Oh, I think first I totally agree with Tamal in terms of whatever he had actually said. And what more needs to be done? Two or three things that come to my mind very clearly. One is that we need to focus on education. We need to get our education system right. And when I'm talking about education system, like there are fundamental issues at all levels of education in terms of the outcomes and the quality of education that we are really talking about. One is if you talk about foundational learning, that is foundational learning, foundational numeracy and mathematical skills, etc. And English skills or language skills, you will notice that close to about 70% of the kids are not able to read, write or whatever if they are in class 8 for a text of class 2 when they get into class 8. So that means there is a severe issue in learning outcomes that we are having. And if we have those learning outcome failures, that means they will not be able to learn better when they go to the university system, etc. And the second is the higher education system. There are severe issues within the higher education space itself, and it boils down from quality that we are actually giving to our students to how the faculty is behaving, to what is the research output and so on and so forth. But a very interesting example that I would like to share is, I always say that, like there are these two young people who are working at our home as domestic help. Both of them are from UP, and sadly, as I would say, both of them are graduates. So that tells you a story about the quality of education that is being imparted today. Because if graduates have to work as home help, that means it's a tragedy of sorts that needs to be rectified and corrected. The third, so that is one, education. Second is skilling. In terms of what is the right level of skilling, what areas and things, there is a larger problem in India. You should look at the PLFS data, and that is the Periodic Labour Force Survey. I'm actually talking about the Government of India data, not any other thing. The data clearly suggests that only 11% of India or Indians are in skill level 3 and 4. That means they are graduates and above. 89% are in skill level 1 and 2. That means we are a very under-skilled country. We need to do our skilling right and at a war footing. That is the second thing we need to do. Third is we need to very clearly improve our healthcare infrastructure. Our healthcare infrastructure is in very, very bad shape. Yes, we have done a great job during COVID. Hats off to the government of India. What they were able to do, hats off to people, they were able to lock themselves in, etc. But in spite or despite of our success there, we need to work on a war footing on our healthcare system. And when I say education and health, if we get these two sectors right, they have a huge multiplier in terms of creation of jobs also. Because they will be able to create so many jobs. If you really talk about healthcare centers in villages, etc., you are creating jobs. You talk about teachers who can go out to schools and teach, you're creating jobs. So there is a huge multiplier that happens. Third, I think very important, every state in this country wants to do everything under the sun. So when I say everything under the sun means Maharashtra wants to be an IT hub or agriculture hub, manufacturing hub, whatever be the industry that you can name, they want to be a hub of that location. When I say Maharashtra, just because I'm sitting in Maharashtra. Every state wants to do everything under the sun. We need to identify what are our competencies and focus on that and really start moving into sector-specific strategies and move on. If we are able to get these things right, yes, India can do wonders for itself, because when you talk about economic progress is not the only, it will not take you far. It is just a number as you're really talking about. It has to be economic progress and social progress, which has to happen hand in hand. And social progress would mean that we have to enable our people to really move forward. And what does that enablement would mean? Higher education, primary education, healthcare, and so on and so forth. Personal freedom, personal choice, all these things would matter for us to move ahead. I think if we are not able to do it, we would still be sitting in this room 25 years down the road. That lady who was 16 today that Tamal said, she'll be a 50-year-old woman and talking in place of me and saying about the same set of things. So that's, who was that girl anyways? Please identify yourself. But over to you, please.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you for those get rights. Now coming to you, Pradip, and as I see the time, I think these are becoming closing remarks as well. So, what Tamal also mentioned, that we need a lot of entrepreneurial spirit. That entrepreneurial spirit has given rise to startup ecosystem to suddenly become the talk of the town, become huge. But I'm sure EdTech as an industry has given us lessons that we need to learn to improve the systemic support to startups, and also things that founders should be careful about. What would your input be to those learnings? 3 things that we have to take care about a startup ecosystem.
Well, be honest. I mean, that's the basic, right? Because half of these entrepreneurs, if you interact with and if you go and talk to them and if you see their business models, revenue models, and the kind of everything that goes on, Tamal has been a journalist for a long time, he would know. If you look at their balance sheets and reports and look at Byju's today. It was everywhere. Now he's hiding. So yeah, be honest, guys. That's the basic, one of the basic tenets for everybody, not just entrepreneurs. But that's number 1. Number 2, build the foundations right, because we have seen, at least in education technology, that they got swayed by the investment that was coming in, and because of the growth that happened during the pandemic, they could not maintain the foundations right, and they did not have checks and balances. Third, have checks and balances, right? And you cannot, but like I was having this discussion with an auditor yesterday, and there are 2 schools of thoughts here. One, because obviously starting up is difficult, right? And most companies take a couple of years to understand the product, to understand the market. There's a term called product market fit. You would know if certain product will work with a certain market. That's called a product market fit. So you take a couple of iterations, a couple of years just to reach there. And till that time, people say, "Chalo koi baat nahi, dekh lenge baad mein." There's one school of thought that says that let it be, only after you have raised a couple of rounds of money, series B, series C, after you have found a product market fit, then you will figure out all these checks and balances. There's another school of thought that says, boss, you need the checks and balances from day 1. Aapko checks and balances pehle banana hai, phir aap dhanda banao. Because it will all build up by the time you decide, and then it goes haywire, which has happened. So yeah, be honest, have your foundations correct, don't get swayed by the money, do not play to the gallery. Do not, because it happens when there is too much money in the system, you get swayed by the money, and then the investors will make you dance according to their tunes. And obviously one thing that has happened, and this is not just about EdTech, it has happened in many other sectors as well. We have taken we have been flummoxed by the size of our economy. Every CEO that I have interacted with, Indian or outside, they all say India is a 1.4 billion people market. The purchasing power is only that much. The market is not deep enough. And there are economic problems and everything, but let's not get into that. I will deviate that way. So basically, yes. Be honest, bring checks and balances, have your foundations right, be very clear about what you want to do, and that's it. Don't get swayed by too much money in the market.
Great points. In fact, what Tamal thus said makes a lot of sense, and there was a data point that came out recently on the number of demat accounts. The number of demat accounts has surpassed the number of people who have disposable income, which effectively means that they're actually dipping into their usable income to invest in the stock market, which brings in huge systemic risk. But before we close and I go back for closing remarks, Rajan sir, question to you on this. See, this way or that way, the education system of the country will play a very big role for us to, use the demographic dividend as well as build our future. What would be your 3 key takeaways that needs to be done for our existing education system to make it robust enough for the future?
Number one is the governmental intervention in the education system is must. When I say governmental intervention is, I myself in 2014 asked the government of Maharashtra, you give me 500 crores and I will give best of the best education to all the children in the school. Okay, 500 crores is not much. They could have done it. So governmental intervention is the must. That is number one. Number two is the non-government organizations' role is also very, very important, and they need to partner with the government so that they can reach the last man. How can they intervene and how can they help? Through the mission from profit to purpose. Because this educated class is going to go and work in the industries or work as an employer. Those who will participate in the developmental process of this country. And therefore this is, number two is very, very important. And the third thing is people's participation. That people's participation is least. How can people participate? People participate through questioning. They are not at all questioning. They should question the government, but they are not questioning. Say any college student, see he or she is not getting a teacher. I am telling you, 55% of the teachers are vacant in the country. What kind of education they are going to get? They are not questioning. We are paying the fees, but where are the teachers? So the third most important thing is the people should question, which is not happening in this country. Somebody there waiting for Bhagat Singh. मेरे घर में भगत सिंह पैदा नहीं होना चाहिए, उसके घर में होना चाहिए. Not going to happen. So people's participation is the first. These are the three things which I feel.
Very, very interesting point. Before we close, and I will open for a few questions to the audience. Closing remarks, 30 seconds, start with Tamal.
No, let's not get carried away by rhetoric. Again, I am repeating this X trillion economy and all. X trillion, how big is the economy is not important. What's our per capita income? 1.140 crore plus people are there. So what's our per capita income? Look at that, even if we go there. So that's very critical. Just what he said also I'm asking. Repeating the same thing, just question. Let's not get carried away by some rhetoric. That's part number one. And part number two is just let's walk the talk. Walk the talk meaning we are talking about financial inclusion and all. But people where I live in Bombay, you look at my maidservant, look at my cook, look at my driver, look at my dog walker. Do they have any access to the financial system? No. Can they get loan? No. I am the informal banker. On my kitchen you will find always like Savitri 20,000 plus, X 20,000 plus. Only thing I don't charge interest like banks, but I do that. Can they go to the banking system? No, they're not. They're scared, they will not be able. And on the one hand, we are talking about this Jan Dhan 55 crore accounts opening. On the other hand, even in urban pockets, you will find people of that level, they don't have the access to the financial system. So we need to walk the talk. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamal. Amit.
So, what we need to do, let me point out three very interesting women here in this room. Behind the cameraman, second row, there are three ladies sitting at the back, young girls, not with the back, the lady behind you. These three girls have been chatting through the last 30 minutes. They have not been listening to a single thing what we have said. Right? We need to change this. Increase your span of attention. Don't get miserable with your lives and not trying to learn. And get slaves to what you call as social media. Right? Because artificial intelligence and social media is going to make you dumb. And even dumber over a period of time. So those three ladies, if they can find out, you can raise your hand if you want to, but I don't know. So that's where it is. So thank you.
Yeah, Pradip, closing remarks.
Don't feel bad, okay? We are old people who judge people all the time, so don't feel bad. But having said that, yeah, मुझे याद नहीं किसने कहा था, शायद विवेकानंद ने कहा था या किसी ने कहा था कि उठो जागो और अपने गंतव्य की तरफ बढ़ते जाओ. तो something of that sort, right? I feel that today's generation, this generation, and I say this only because there are way many young people in the crowd. Yes, attention span is decreasing. You need to get your act together in that. Ask questions. Do not take everything that is given to you. Ask. Ask. Don't be afraid. Get up. Ask. Learn. Think. Ask. Only if you do this much, you will make a lot of change happen. And all of it will be good. That is it.
Thank you. Raju sir, 30 seconds. Closing remarks.
So, can you show me your mobile, those three girls? Which mobile you are using? I just want to see the cell, whether iPhone or this thing. Can you just raise the mobile? But anyway, just my last comment. My last comment is on the basis of them only. You may change your handset many times, but also remember to change your mindset.
On that note, gentlemen, thank you so much. It was a lovely session and I truly enjoyed moderating. Audience, thank you for being patient. Youth, I hope you heard. As I told you in the beginning, this is 100 plus years of experience sitting on a stage right now with me. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Everyone for joining us in this session, driving sustainable growth, financial, economic and technological strategies of India. I would like to thank Jaipur Publications, Penguin Random House, Juggernaut Books and Readominia Publication and LIC as the strategic heritage partners for this particular session. Thank you very much.